It also recognizes that maybe we ought to be thinking about sort of regional and other kinds of differences when we're voting for president. In a rural state like Idaho, it makes us think, well gosh, maybe California and New York shouldn't get to decide who's gonna be president of the United States all by themselves. Maybe there ought to be some place where small states like Idaho and Wyoming and Alaska have something to say about this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you hate to open the kettle of fish that is changing the Constitution. I mean, we've only done it 27 times in well over 200 years. I don't know if what would happen. And if there's any lesson from the examples we've talked about, we don't have a great way of counting the votes. I mean, you would think, history girl, I'm sitting here thinking, well, you go 1, 2, 3, and how hard can this be? But it's really hard. It's really hard. And especially it's hard now that we have states like our neighbor Washington that allows voting by mail. We have all kinds of different ways of voting. I mean, it's more than just how many votes are cast for each person. We've heard Donald Trump talk about this. Are people registered in more than one place? Did somebody try to go vote at their precinct and it was the wrong precinct and they're turned away and told to go elsewhere when maybe it really was the right precinct and maybe they couldn't get there, right? A lot of people say 2016 made a difference because it was one of the latest elections according to the calendar. And if we'd had a couple of fewer days, maybe the outcome would have been different. The whole counting thing is complicated. And would that be more the case if we were counting all the votes for the popular vote instead of thinking about the Electoral College? I don't know that I have the definite answer, but a lot of people suspect yes, that the Electoral College perhaps buffers us from some of this manipulation and problems with counting and who gets to vote and who doesn't. Yeah. Now we're talking about, well, perhaps some people who are not United States citizens vote. And how do we tell? When I went to the fairgrounds, nobody asked me if I was a citizen. They kind of looked and my name was there, and as I recall, when I moved to Moscow, what they wanted to see was my driver's license, but that didn't say anything. And I think the electric bill or something like that. That didn't prove where I was a citizen. Yeah. So we have this notion that the American electoral system is this fair play kind of thing, but I guess my point is history would tell us otherwise, that it's not always that fair. And does the Electoral College provide us some protection against those things? I don't know. And would we open a kettle of fish if we mess with the Constitution about this particular issue? And in the final analysis, if you got, I think I tried to count, and that's always a mistake, 57 presidential elections, 5 of them where we have a difference, which is less than 10%. Seems important, the ones that we remember, but maybe in a historical context, having fewer than 10% have this be a particular issue, maybe it isn't worth doing a substantive change to the whole process for that little 10%. I don't know. What do you think? Yes,
Like, so whatever we think and whatever, how would it change? Would it be put to the public vote as far as changing, or how would that change if we decided what we wanted to change
So-
on that electoral vote?
so remember how the Equal Rights Amendment, which would be the one that probably is most in the minds of people in this room, both the United States House and Senate have to vote for a constitutional amendment, and then it has to be ratified by 2/3 of the states, or you can hold constitutional conventions and do it that way, which, to my way of thinking, think of what, if you had an open constitutional convention, think of what crazies could bring to that setting and what kind of trouble that might open. But that's another way that one could do it. So it's not that easy. That's why we've only done it 27 times and tried it, I think, 33 times. So 6 times, not 6. So it's not that easy. And, I mean, when you think about the current, so let's be candid. Democrats right now may be the people who would be in favor of getting rid of the electoral college because in 2000 and 2016 didn't work out so well for them. But who's in control of the United States House and Senate? So what are the likelihood that it would happen that way? Probably not. It's kind of the tale of the two-party system, yeah.
Why is the electoral college a winner-take-all in each state?
Yeah.
And why do they not send delegates proportionate to the?
Because that was the whole, that was the whole point. That was what the framers wanted to avoid. The framers thought, and if they were here in 2016, quite frankly, they would be amazed, because what happened in 2016 is the populace took precedence over party regulars and that kind of thing, and people who were political elites. And the framers, frankly, wanted to protect people who were political elites, and so they would have been shocked by that. So their purpose was, remember when the United States was created, the former 13 colonies and the 13 states, their identity as states was a lot more important to them than their identity as a country. And they never really imagined that being different, and so they wanted those states to be important in their own right. And as I suggested, they didn't think there would be two parties, and so if they had not had it be winner take all in a place like Idaho, which didn't exist then, where we only have a handful of electoral votes, you wouldn't even have enough electoral votes to go around to all the factions, basically, is what I'm trying to say, and in the way they envisioned it. And the other piece, I guess we should, all of this all depends upon the census, which has its own set of problems that we don't even have time to mention. Yes.
Well, we do have structures, which we do love sometimes. Sometimes to our benefit, sometimes not so much. But there are models in the world that function just fine, or at least as fine as ours, such as Australia. And of course, there's this parliamentary system, which is, more akin to the many factions. But they also have everybody votes every time, 100% voting every time, because it's required. You are fined if you don't vote. And it's completely by number, So there are lots of models.
There certainly
that
are.
function just as well as our warty system.
If we were willing,
So that's,
if we were willing to go there, if we were willing especially to go to a system where you don't know when the election's gonna take place, like which would be the case in most parliamentary systems, it's when the majority starts having trouble. We kinda like knowing that even though we hated every moment of the 2016 election, we'll have to do it again for 4 more years. Think if we had to do it again
Oh,
next
sorry.
year.
We'll probably start next week.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if we had to do the whole meal deal again next year. And think about the cost, you know, there, I don't know. I mean, I think there certainly are other systems. I think we are the end, I mean, I wouldn't, I think we're the envy of the rest of the world in a lot of ways.